Hi, my name is Nadia Gathers. I currently head communications at Code 2040, a nonprofit based in the Bay Area that is working to achieve racial equity in technology. And I was a University Innovation Fellow from Converse College since I have now graduated. I want you to imagine a time when you felt included. For me, this example was simple. I've been to over 10 schools in my academic career, and I've never been good at making friends. Inclusion was the feeling when, in each new cafeteria, I was finally asked to sit at a lunch table. It was the feeling of belonging. Now, I want you to think of a time when you felt excluded. For me, this example was also simple. In high school, a boy I barely knew told me I wasn't even pretty for a black girl. Now, the insult stung, but more than that, what really hurt was this idea that in the hearts and minds of many of my peers, I was irreconcilably different. We've all been on both sides of this fence. Some of us have spent more time on one side than the other. But that feeling, exclusion, I'd be willing to bet we've all felt it at some point in our lives. In my role with Code 2040 and the University Innovation Fellows, I bring feelings like this out of the dark and into the light. Working for a nonprofit looking to achieve racial equity in technology, I've been in spaces where I felt like I belonged, and spaces where I was overtly an outsider. But the main thing I spend my time on isn't adding brown faces to pamphlets for recruiting. It is sculpting the language and space in which we build inclusive movements. So what do? These problems are complex, and they exist within a history of hatred and bigotry that lives on even today. So, problems aren't simple. However, these are the things that I take with me to work every single day. 1, I start with empathy. The core of every inclusive movement is mutual respect. I may not have been where you've been, but I can empathize with your humanity. In practice, this can look like the exercise we did at the beginning of this talk. Imagining a time when you felt the pain of exclusion, and starting with that as your foundation. Number 2, move past tolerance and into vulnerability. Conversations around gender, race, socioeconomic status, and a litany of other topics can trigger even the best of us. So what can vulnerability look like in practice? At Code 2040, it means I openly admit my struggles with mental illness. I update my team with my progress, and I give others the space to do the same. This can be risky, and it can be painful. But opening your doors as a person, as a professor or a manager or any other position of power, give others the space to do the same. And number 3, words mean things. The buzzwordy, tech-focused vernacular of the Valley can give even seasoned veterans a headache. We often hear of failure being celebrated and exciting, but many of us cannot fail. When we go home, there is no one to catch us. Instead of using words like failure, try using words like create, reassess, and rebuild. Translation is simple, but it can be effective. It is important to remember that these are starting points. They are the constitution against which you build an inclusive nation, and they need to be serially revisited and reestablished to make a difference. You have the opportunity to bend the arc of the future towards inclusion, should you decide to. I ask you to decide, not because it's profitable, it can be, but because it is the right thing to do. Start with love. Inclusion will follow. How might we create spaces where everyone has a seat at the table? Thank you.